In Hitman 3, you commit a lot of crimes, and I mean a lot. You trespass, you steal, you smuggle contraband, and of course, you kill. In the average casual playthrough, the player commits 145 different crimes. But how many of those crimes do you actually need to commit in order to beat the game? I'm gonna see if I can get that astronomical crime count all the way down to just 10. Is that even possible? Let's find out. This goal took me to the start of the game, and also the simplest map to complete, Dubai, where my goal is to kill two men named Carl Ingram and Marcus Stuyvesant. Both of these men are super rich and afraid of being assassinated, so they're hiding out atop a huge skyscraper. Since this map hosts a large party and both targets move around a significant amount, I thought at first I could start out in the classic 47 suit and just snipe them from afar. But using this method forces me to commit 4 separate crimes. 1 for smuggling a gun, 2 for each shot fired to kill the targets, and a 4th for running away from the cops. If you're wondering how I keep track of crimes, the game tells you what is and is not illegal with little red exclamation points or by having guards get angry with you. So I'm gonna use those and common sense to identify any crimes I commit. So even if the game doesn't say it's illegal to take a disguised bomb with me, I'm still going to count it. That being said, I think it's pretty clear that getting 4 crimes on the first and possibly the simplest mission is not going to cut it to reach my goal of 10. I need to be much smarter about my approach, so I'm going to go back for another try. This time I decided instead to start out as a staff worker in Carl's penthouse. The game only counts changing clothes as a crime, so as long as I'm not spawning dressed as a criminal, I'm just gonna assume 47 worked his way up the corporate ladder. With this spawn disguise, it gives me a huge leg up on this mission. This outfit gave me much greater access to the map without trespassing, and allowed me to catch Carl while he was leaning over a balcony. I could get a view of him from his office and just barely get in reach to throw a knife I found at him, easily securing my first kill with only 1 crime committed. My next target, Marcus, was a bit tougher for me, but I was still able to take a similar approach. Since I used my only set of clothes to get better access to Carl, I can't follow Marcus around most of his route without trespassing, and the rest of his route that I can follow goes through a party I mentioned before. This should have made getting a 1 crime kill on him impossible, but luckily, crowd mechanics in this game work very strangely. There are certain crowds that aren't actually people, and instead are basically just bushes that can get scared. If I can throw a knife at Marcus when all the real people aren't looking while standing inside of a crowd, I can avoid being spotted and keep my crime count low by avoiding having to run from cops. After some trial and error, I found a spot that just barely worked. I can stand in this crowd of 4 people and throw a letter opener I found earlier at Marcus. Somehow, the guard on my left doesn't notice Marcus dropping dead in his peripheral vision, so I can run towards him to avoid being spotted and wait for the guards to cool down before taking the elevator to exit the mission, netting me my first mission complete with only 2 crimes needing to be committed. That was a very solid start, but things got even better on my second mission in Dartmoor. I already have an entire video on this mission, so I'm gonna keep it brief, but this was the only mission I was able to beat without committing a single crime by spawning as the detective and effectively getting someone else to commit a crime for me by just fixing a machine and convincing my target to give me a piece of paper that I needed. I'll put the link to how I did that at the end of the video. With Dartmoor complete, it was on to the mission I assumed would have the most crimes in it for sure, Berlin. I assumed this since I have to kill 5 out of 10 different targets rather than the usual 1 or 2, and they are scattered all over the map, making the likelihood that I would have to trespass way higher. I decided to spawn as a DJ this time, since I figured it would provide me the most access to the level. Another key to this disguise is that I can use it to kill 2 people with only 1 crime. By sabotaging the lights with a screwdriver I found in the back, I can then activate the final light show as the DJ while 2 of my targets along with 0 innocents are standing next to them. And when I activate the show, both of them get fried to a crisp. This left me with 3 other targets to eliminate. But I quickly realized that the DJ outfit was only good for those first 2 kills, and it was terrible for the rest of them. I couldn't get near almost any of the other targets without trespassing. I ended up committing 6 crimes as the DJ to complete the mission, and that just won't work for this. So instead, I decided to spawn as a member of a biker gang. As I previously mentioned, the game doesn't count spawning in a disguise as a crime, but I can't imagine a way 47 got to be part of a drug-producing mercenary biker gang without committing a crime, so I'm gonna add 1 to the tally. But that's the only crime I will be adding for Berlin. This is because as the biker, I can access just about everywhere on the map, and I can also access propane tanks. Since all of my targets are guards, they also smoke a ton. By placing propane tanks where they smoke, which mind you are very loud and visible, I can get 4 separate targets to blow themselves up just by smoking. And since no other targets choose to smoke, I'm bringing back a classic character to this channel, Terry the Guard. This guard, who I have lovingly named Terry, will smoke right next to one of my targets, blowing them both up and allowing me to leave completely unseen, without trespassing, and as far as the game is concerned, without committing a single crime. I was on a roll, but all of that was about to come to a screeching halt in my next mission in China. I knew ahead of time that this mission would require at least a couple extra crimes, simply because of how spread apart the targets are. This mission is effectively divided into 2 zones, one underground laboratory and one above ground laboratory, with different people allowed inside of both. My first target, Imogen Royce, lives in the bottom laboratory, and my other target, Hush, lives in the top. Both are evil scientists trying to do evil scientist stuff. I decided to spawn as an engineer in the bottom laboratory, and made Imogen Royce my first target. I followed her for a long time. And let me tell you, this place is awful for committing no crimes. All of the doors here are locked with encryption keys, and I can't hack any of them because that's a crime. So my movement is limited to about 1/3 of the areas that Imogen goes to, and she is always surrounded by people. If I was going to commit as few crimes as possible, I was gonna have to use cheese. By striking up a conversation with a really friendly guard, I can stall him while Imogen keeps going on without him. Imogen then turns to go down some stairs, and for a brief moment is out of sight of everyone around her. I use this time to run up to her, throw a shuriken at her, and run away before anyone gets suspicious of me or even notices the body. For Hush, I took a pretty similar approach. However, as I mentioned earlier, I was forced to trespass in order to get this kill, as I was unable to figure out any other method that made this more efficient. If I got a new disguise, that would be 2 crimes, one for knocking out someone and the other for stealing their clothes. I decided to sneak into Hush's building through the rooftop of a laundromat, as his building's rooftop was directly connected. I managed to sneak into the room Hush goes into to rest without being seen, and as he walked in to check if things were in order, I threw a taunto at him before hopping out of the window without anyone seeing me, allowing me to wait for the guards to calm down and leave the area. After the guards cleared out, I quickly left and escaped the same way that I came, and caught a subway train out of the level. That train took me to a beautiful wine party in Argentina, where I had to catch my day shift as a bartender. It also happens to be where my targets Don Yates and Tamara Vidal were both in attendance in order to recruit my friend Diana into the crime ring they lead. I'm slowly closing in on that 10 crime count, so I need to keep the crimes as low as possible. And in order to do so, I needed to get a bit more creative than my previous missions. No simple knife throwing will get me low enough to achieve victory. So I started with Don Yates. To kill him as easily as possible, I'm simply going to let his wife do it. If I trespass into his basement, I can then unlock his safe since I already know the code, and pick up papers revealing that he sabotaged his wife's career in the past. The game doesn't count this as a crime, so we're in the clear. Once I leave the basement, I hand the papers to his wife. She brings Don up to their balcony to have a conversation where things get out of hand, and she pushes him off the rooftop to his death, earning me another kill with only 1 minor crime committed. But 1 crime per person is far too low, so for Tamara I need a 0 crime kill. And lucky for me, just like the guards in Berlin, she has a horrible nicotine addiction, and will smoke on this balcony. Initially, I was going to use this to get her to blow herself up with a tank of propane, but she ended up killing my friend Diana in the process, causing an instant mission failure. I thought I would have to just snipe her with a knife after that, until I discovered that she is a hardcore smoker, and actually smokes as she's walking out of this door, with Diana just far enough behind that she won't get caught in the explosion. By just leaving a propane tank here, she blows herself up, and I get to leave the mission with only 1 more crime added to the list. Part of me wonders if it's possible to do this mission without committing a crime as well, but I haven't been able to figure it out yet. And now for the final mission of the game, the one I had been dreading the most. In this mission, you spawn kidnapped in a train, and you are trespassing the second you spawn in, so that's another crime. This mission was just generally annoying, because to minimize crime, you essentially have to get the Silent Assassin Suit Only achievement, which means nobody can see me and I can't change clothes. This mission is notorious for being extremely frustrating to get this achievement on, and I now understand why. Some of the routes I found to get past people involved super precise distractions with just random stuff that I found earlier, such as soap. and I would often be just barely seen in areas I thought were safe and have to restart the mission. On top of that, this mission really forces you to commit extra crimes, because I also have to pull this lever to separate the train in order to progress the mission, which the game clearly marks as a crime. In the end, I confront my target, but there's a bit of an interesting twist to this one. My target gives me a serum to erase my memory and go back to being a hitman, and usually I would just kill him, but since I'm trying to commit as few crimes as possible, I just inject it into myself so nobody has to die. And while, yeah, that would probably be the same number of crimes as if I went and got the fiber wire from the back and just killed him, this way, less people die, netting me only 3 crimes committed for the entire level, ending up with the crime count being at exactly 10. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.